Hello there, Darth Swissius here.
Do it.
I'd like to share with you some anecdotes from my time in the world of work. I'm now a 30-year-old man, nearly 31-year-old man, and I've worked a few different jobs in my time. I've worked in retail, I've worked in care. Currently, I work in education, stroke childcare. Depends what you want to term a nursery preschool. It's a little bit of each, really, isn't it? In my time, there have been a few occurrences that have happened to me in some various jobs, especially because some of the places that I've worked are less conventional. Certain experiences that you won't necessarily have in other jobs. Certainly where I worked in care. We're going to start off with retail though. When I was but a 16-year-old boy, I had a Christmas temping job at Tesco. Other supermarkets are available, and it only lasted about 2 or 3 weeks. And it was my first sort of proper job. Before that, I'd been paid to put leaflets through letterboxes, help with gardening, that sort of stuff. But that was the first one where I went to a place, clocked in, got a pay slip, that kind of thing. And I didn't much enjoy it. I did not much enjoy being stuck on a till for hours and hours on end with just endless reams of people bringing along shopping. And obviously it was Christmas shopping because I was a Christmas temp. Now, this was a younger version of me. I wasn't the cultured man that you know me as today. I wasn't aware of as many things as I am today, such as varieties of different types of vegetables. So they'd bring along on the conveyor belt, you'd have these see-through bags with vegetables inside them, and they don't have barcodes on them. You've got to enter in on the computer in front of you what vegetable it is, weigh it, or what the quantity is, or whatever. But I didn't like the fact that I had these big long queues where there'd be 4 or 5 people deep, all of them with just as much shopping as each other. I really didn't have time to go searching through the menus looking for, what's this vegetable? Does it look like the thing in the picture? I mean, at the time, I probably knew the name of about 7 vegetables, So as a shorthand, I just charged everyone for carrots. If I didn't know what your vegetable was, you'd bought carrots. Therefore, when the receipt was printed off, if you'd look at it, you'd go, "Oh, there's a lot of carrots here." Tesco would go, "Wow, we're really selling carrots a lot this year, aren't we now?" I never got brought up on that in particular. I also kept jamming we had a little box that we were supposed to put like larger amounts of money in. I guess so if we get robbed, there's only so much you can take out of the till, but we had a little secure box that you put wads of notes in from time to time. I kept jamming that. I don't know how I kept jamming that, but I did. And eventually some ladies like from one of the offices said, "Oh, you're the one who keeps jamming it." Actually, yeah, there's one more thing from my time at Tesco as well. I had 2 cards. Okay, one of them was a laminated bit of paper, and that was my clock-in card or whatever. It had like a little barcode on it or something, and then I used that to sign in and out. We also received a standard little plastic card, like a debit card, but obviously not. And that was for using vending machines and stuff in the staff cafeteria. And obviously, one day I put the laminated paper card inside of the vending machine instead of the proper card that's meant to go in there, and it jammed. And I went and sat down, and I thought, "Oh shit! Hopefully, no one will notice." I, I, I Now, look, I in my adult life, I've had issues with anxiety and social anxiety from time to time. Not so much when I'm doing my YouTube stuff; it's a very comfortable environment. But especially when I was younger, I used to struggle with that kind of stuff. Not so much today. But I didn't want to tell anyone that I just jammed the thing, even though at some point I was going to have to get it retrieved because that was my thing for signing it out. But for the time being, I just walked away from the vending machine. I sat down at the canteen table and I just sort of buried my head a little bit. And like a minute later, someone standing by the vending machine goes, "Oh, it's not working. So someone's jammed it." There's something in here. What's happened here? And then some woman from a couple tables over goes, "It was him. He jammed it. He put the wrong thing in there." And about 20 people just turn and look at me as I, just shrink inside of myself as much as possible. So yeah, that was my joyous time working at Tesco, albeit briefly when I was 16. And it pretty much convinced me that I did not want to work in retail again. So it was no surprise that my next job was a Saturday job at WH Smith. I don't really have any good stories about WH Smith, other than, people would come in and complain about the price of the confectionery, and they'd want me to agree with them complaining about the price of the confectionery. They go, "Oh, look, isn't this disgusting?" And now keep in mind, this was before all the inflation we've had in the past 10 years. So the prices I'm quoting are probably a bit out of step with what we have today. But isn't this disgusting? This chocolate bar for 85p. Don't you think it's disgusting? Me, very much aware that, there's managers buzzing around and they're listening, and, I just have to go, oh, well, these are the prices, there's a fucking 99p store next door. Go get your cheap chocolate from there. But no, that was kind of all we really got in Smiths. It was just old people complaining, basically. People complaining about the prices. People complaining about the fact that they didn't want the little coupons we had to scan and put in their bags. And I tried to, I was on their side. I didn't want to give them these little coupons, but we had mystery shoppers come in and discover the fact that I was not giving them the coupons. I was quite rebellious working in retail, really, with my false carrots and my non-scanning of coupons. I got a little bit better in some later jobs. So in my early 20s, I worked in adult social care, and that was a job that I never imagined that I'd go into. I never thought I'd be particularly good at it. The home that I worked at for the longest amount of time was a supported living home for adults with learning disabilities. So it was people who had been born with learning disabilities or developmental disorders. They'd often have autism and other conditions on top of that. A whole smorgasbord of things for them to deal with. And I thought that going into that job, I would survive about a week or two, and then I'd just quit because I wouldn't be able to cope. And as it turned out, I did that job for about 3 or 4 years. I actually really, really enjoyed it. It turned out that I had a knack for sort of being just really personable with the people that I was working with, which I had not expected. And I got on so incredibly well with them. It was so much fun. But you'd end up interacting with people in such unusual ways, especially because of the needs and the conditions that they had. So there'd be there was a chap I worked with who was in his 20s, but he what he liked to do was sit and watch a DVD player, and he'd watch like old cartoons from the 90s. He'd watch Thomas the Tank. He'd watch all this, that, and the other, and he'd love it when you. But basically, we sort of communicated in memes almost. He'd love it when I would quote things at him that he recognized, or we'd have a sort of call and response thing where he'd say a certain line or a question, and he'd expect me to come back with a particular response, and he'd get absolutely giddy and gleeful with it. But everyone in the home had behavior issues. It was called a challenging behavior home, which was a nice way of saying they may hit or bite you from time to time. We'd have different ways of trying to get around that or diffuse tense situations, and sometimes you had to get a little bit creative with it. And at one point we had this sort of thing we'd say where now I'm going to change everybody's names, obviously. I don't know, Derek. Let's say Derek. Now, Derek, remember what happens if you're a bad man, Derek? The story of Henry, he would say. And the sad story of Henry was from Thomas the Tank, where Henry didn't want to bus around passengers or coaches because it would ruin his lovely new coat of paint. So the Fat Controller punished him by putting him inside of a tunnel and bricking up the tunnel, and Henry had to just stay there in this bricked up tunnel. And for whatever reason, Derek found it hilarious that we would like low-key threaten him with the idea of going, if you're a bad man, Derek, what's going to happen? Oh, the sad story of Henry. That's right. I'll take away your tracks. I'll put you in a tunnel. I'll brick you up, and your paint will get all rusty. And yeah, loved it. Found it hilarious. To be honest, there's a dime a dozen stories I could tell you from my time in care. There was so much, so much. Um, my favorite chap to work with, we'll call him Mark. He talks non-stop. He was that absolute chatterbox, and sometimes it would be sort of irrespective of whether you were having a full-on conversation with him or not, and sometimes it'd be very much out of context of anything you were doing at the time. But he was always fun to talk to, and he always got a lot out of you chatting to him about the things he was discussing, especially if you showed enthusiasm, or in my case, I'd sometimes put on silly voices or that kind of thing. Um, but it was early on in my time working there, and I'd been forewarned that from time to time, that they could present challenging behaviour. Sometimes there would be situations where things could get a little bit physical, but I hadn't witnessed it yet. Um, and some of the staff were going to take a few of the guys out in the car, and sometimes, seemingly out of nowhere, there's always a trigger of sorts, a reason why someone's become upset, but it might not always be apparent at the time. But seemingly out of nowhere, one of the guys kind of reached round the seat in the car where they were and whacked one of the staff in the side of the head. So we sort of said, right, that's it. Not going out now. Not a safe situation to go out. Not when this kind of behaviour is going on. So we're going to have to come back inside for the time being. And this is where I saw my first sort of incidents, as they were sometimes known, which was Mark sort of at one point sort of was grabbing onto one of the staff and wouldn't let go. Eventually, we managed to get back inside, and he sort of sank himself down to the ground, but he was sort of swiping out at our legs, trying to grab us. So you had this situation where there was this element of physical danger here. He was here sort of on the ground trying to grab onto us, and sort of he was really in a heightened state, really upset and frustrated, and obviously trying to sort of take it out on the people near him. But there was a total mismatch between that set of actions and the things he was talking about at the time, because as he was trying to assault us, he was also saying, "Oh, I love the cricket. Are you watching the cricket on Saturday, Matt? Oh, I love the cricket. Oh, do you play darts? I love the darts." So there was just this surreal situation of this person trying to grab at me and swipe at my legs, and we were having to sort of take a few steps back and calm a situation down, while at the same time being quizzed about sports. And I loved working with Mark. He was my favourite to work with. We had so much fun. One more story from that setting. We'd take some of the guys out in the community. Sometimes we'd go off to the next town over. We'd go on public transport. We'd go out and do activities. We'd take them to the shops. Just stuff that they couldn't do independently themselves, either because they'd be a threat to themselves or potentially others, or others could be a threat to them. So I took Mark out one day on the train. We went a few towns over. We had a fairly nice day. Went to Greg's, had a little bit of food, and it was time to go back on the train. And for whatever reason, Mark did not want to go on the train. No train, he said. No train. And I thought, all right then. And I'd been out with him quite a few times, and I knew that it wasn't always worth trying to push these things. If he decided he didn't want to go on the train at the moment, fair enough. We'd wait a little while, see if he changed his mind. That was probably the best way to deal with the situation. But he just decided to, train station was here. He just decided to start walking that way. And I went, right, okay. So I followed along with him. Now, I had my phone on me. If there were any, if anything got a bit difficult, I could always call the home up and get someone to come help out. So Mark had decided he was just going to walk down the street. So I went with him, and after about 5 minutes, I started to smell something, and I thought, okay, he's had an accident, and this would sometimes happen. This would sometimes happen in the home. It would also sometimes happen when we were out and about. Now, sometimes it couldn't be helped, although staff had theorised that he might have got it into his mind that maybe if he shat himself, he would get to go home immediately, because having shat himself, we'd just call a taxi or get the car from the home to come pick him up or something like that. We kind of thought possibly it was a bit of a learned behavior, almost associating, right, I don't want to be out anymore. What's the quickest way to get back? Oh, I'll shit myself. There we go. Now I can get back nice and quick. I don't know if that was the case on that day or not. But anyway, we were walking down the street, started to smell something, and gradually Mark began to get more and more frustrated as we were walking down the street, and that would manifest in his hand would start tapping me on the shoulder, and it would sometimes be hard little taps like this, and this was a sign that he'd be a bit nervous or anxious or otherwise not feeling particularly great, and I knew why. But we were out in an area that I wasn't that familiar with, walking down the street. I knew what had happened. What were we going to do? I thought we first things first. I need to get to a toilet or a bathroom somewhere and see what the situation is. So we walked a little bit further down and we found a KFC. So we went into this KFC, went into the KFC bathroom. Sure enough, he had indeed done the deed, and it was everywhere. And there was realistically no prospect of clearing it up. It was just there was too much of it. And this was one of these moments in life where I thought to myself, how have I ended up in this position? All of the choices I've made in my life have led me to this particular situation where I'm in a KFC bathroom with a disabled man who shat himself, and he's chatting my ear off as he's also trying to hit me as I'm trying to clean him up. So, yeah, it was a horribly stressful situation at the time. I can look back on it now and laugh. So I went out of the bathroom and I went to the counter at KFC and I said, look, this is the situation. I'm a carer. The person that I'm looking after, he's had an accident in the bathroom. We can't have anyone going in the bathroom at the moment. We're out of toilet paper in the bathroom. Could you get me some more? I need something. This was some teenager standing behind the till in KFC who just sort of went, oh yeah, all right then, and handed me about 3 napkins. And I said to him, I'm going to need more than that, I'm afraid. So it was a really dire situation. I at this point, I'd called the home and I'd sort of said, oh, this is the situation. My phone was on low charge as well, just adding to the panic. I never allowed myself in that situation again. But fortunately, there was a good Samaritan in KFC who had overheard me at the till discussing what the situation was. And he came up to me and he said, oh, look, I've heard about what's happening. Do you need some spare clothes? I've actually got a bunch of spare clothes in the back of my car that I was going to take to a charity shop today. And I thought, oh, yes, my savior. So we got donated a pair of jeans and whatever. So we were able to sort of, put a lid on the situation, at least, that all the dirty stuff I kind of put in a bag and, we were able to get out of the KFC. I wasn't able to fully clean up the bathroom with the materials provided to me. But then again, what do you expect with a handful of napkins? So in the end, we went and waited outside. The car came to pick us up. We made it back to the house. Everything was all right. And my colleagues at the home found the story absolutely hilarious when I told them the situation that we'd been stuck in there. So those are the ones that I'm going to choose to tell you from care for the time being. In the last couple of years, I've worked with children in a preschool environment, though, and that's been, it's been a change from what I did in social care, but I've absolutely loved it. I think people used to say to me when I worked in care, oh, it must be a really rewarding, fulfilling job. And to a degree, I'd say that it was. I certainly enjoyed aspects of it. I certainly enjoyed working with the people I worked with. But I'd say that actually probably that idea of it feeling rewarding what you're doing, probably more than anything, I felt that working with children. And they come out with such hilarious things. These are like, the minds of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. What sort of stuff do they have to say? So I want to tell you a few of these ones. So in preschool, kids are always falling out and fighting over silly little things, and you'd always have to. And I'm not your friend. So and so is not my friend. So we'd have to say to them, no, we're all friends at preschool. Or sometimes, I'll be your friend if they don't want to be your friend. Blah blah blah. So there was a little girl. What are we going to call her? Hannah. We'll say her name's Hannah. So little Hannah said, oh, so and so doesn't want to be my friend, Matt. And I said, oh, well, don't worry, I'll be your friend, Hannah. And she went, no, you can't be my friend. You could only be friends with boy adults. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting observation. And then kind of like without missing a beat, she sort of looked around. And obviously preschool setting, primarily women who work there. I think there was like 1 or 2 other men who works there out of a staff of about 30. And she sort of looked around, seeing that it was only girl adults who were around. And genuinely, she said this to me. She said to me, "You have to be alone today." I thought, oh my God, that's like an existential crisis you've just thrown my way. So I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Um, well, one of the other ones as well. There's a child who's tricked me on a couple of occasions now. There's a 4-year-old who's managed to get one up on me. Um, uh, One day she said to me, "What's your name?" And I said, "Matt." And she went, "What's this?" And I went, "Nose." And she went, "What's in my hands?" And I said, "Nothing." And I finally clocked, okay, I'm being forced. Matt knows nothing. Ha 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 ha. How funny. A week or two later, we were outside and there's this big climbing frame area, and she says, "Oh, come to the doctors, come play in the doctors." So I sort of stood by this climbing frame and went, "Oh, okay, we're in the doctors." And she went, "No, no, no, in there." So I sort of ducked down and got into this little bit, and I was like, "All right, we're in the doctors." "No, no, sit down, sit down." So there was this little sort of bench, this child-sized bench in this area. So I sat down in this little bench, and I was like, "Okay, I'm in the doctors. What now?" And she went, "Ha ha, wet bum, wet bum." And it's because it had rained earlier in the day, and it was still like slightly damp. She'd done all of that just to get me to sit on the bench. That's yeah, yeah. I deserved what came to me, I suppose. And one more we had, and this one was actually only within the past week or so. We were sat down on the carpet with a bunch of the kids. I think we were waiting to either get ready to go out or to have some food or something, and we were sat there singing Christmas songs. And we'd exhausted most of the songs that the kids knew already. You know, your Jingle Bells and everything else. So we thought, all right, what else? And we started doing the 12 Days of Christmas. We actually struggled with that one because I think after the first couple of days, none of us could really remember what any of these things on the days of Christmas were. But, you know, on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me. And behind where we were sitting, there was this big felt Christmas tree that we'd stuck up to the wall, and it had a bunch of little images and objects on there. You had your traditional sort of candy canes, your stars, your baubles and other stuff. But then there was slightly more random things, I guess, like, I don't know, like, you know, a teddy bear's head, or for some reason there was the poo emoji. I don't know why they thought this was appropriate for a felt Christmas tree for children. I don't know if that's the values we have in society today. There's a lot of scatalogical humor in children's books these days, which I really hadn't expected, but there is. Apparently, that's what we think is good for the children now. But there was a little poo emoji with a Santa hat on this felt Christmas tree behind us, and there was this really sweet little girl, only about 2 years old or something, and the timing just lined up perfectly. We sort of said, "On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me," and she went, "Poo!" And we lost it. It was the perfect timing. Yeah. Why have so many of my stories involved shit today? I don't know. But yeah, okay. Those are a few tales of some of the jobs that I've worked in my time. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It partly inspiring me doing this one. Not least because I just enjoy telling my family some of the stuff that happens to me at work. But I remember a little while ago, NA, one of our long-time viewers, had said, "Swiss, we want to hear more stuff about your life. We want to know about the man behind the moniker." Didn't actually say that, but that was the gist, you know. So there we are. There's a few stories from some of the jobs that I've done. Hope you enjoyed.